her through the door, and Rainey had to rework her face as her host corralled her toward the kitchen where the women usually hung out. "Working today?" Braithe glanced over her shoulder, eyeing Rainey's black jeans and t-shirt. But Rainey didn't sense any judgment, just curiosity. Braithe was, for lack of a more interesting word, kind. She nodded, and Braithe's face lit with happiness. She was a rarity. A friend who understood that for an artist, a productive day of work was hard to come by. Rainey felt a surge of affection for her. She'd only known Braithe for the year she'd lived there, but they'd fallen into an easy, non-committal friendship that included an occasional dinner downtown and texts about nothing in particular. "That dip you made on Friday night was amazing. Did you watch the Justin Bieber documentary? The boys want to go bowling Friday night. You down?" Following Braithe past the formal areas of the home, she braced herself, keeping her eyes on the back of her friend's head, dreading the routine of the next 5 minutes. There was nothing more painful to Rainey than the way women greeted each other, the high-pitched squeals of joy, the touching and hugging, the exaggerated expressions that accompanied the small talk. The high sing-song voices saying, "How are you?" Bonus points if they delivered a compliment about hair or outfit. In her circles in New York, her artist friends never touched. They kissed the air beside her cheek and asked how she was in the same sentence they inquired about her bag. They didn't wait for the answer. That was the best part to Rainey. But here they wanted her answer. Here they asked and expected to receive. Braithe Matson's kitchen was stark white, aside from the large black butcher block island that sat at its center. A cluster of women were seated around it, seeming to glow under Braithe's mood lighting. These were the faithful, the loyal, her ladies-in-waiting. The room smelled of her signature scent, a Tom Ford candle. Rainey had once Googled the price of it, called Lost Cherry. It was cozy, even if it was a little overly curated. Rainey did not see herself as one of them. She was the newest, still in the first year of her feel-out phase. She came to their weekly happy hours, and since some of their partners and husbands were friends, there were crossover dinners and summer barbecues, the group discussions centering on sports, their respective jobs, and family gossip. All in all, they were nice. And they were Grant's friends. She'd come because Grant was important to her, and he had asked her to. Rainey made a split-second decision. She sneezed violently into her elbow, and by the time she opened her eyes, a unanimous "bless you" echoed from the women across the room. Suddenly, everyone was laughing, including Rainey, who was able to avoid the hugging and touching part as she sniffled past them. No one wanted to get sick or touch the snotty girl. The Tiger Mountain group was composed of mostly childless, married women in their 30s and 40s who connected via a Facebook page. But the baby tigers, as Tara called them, were a handful of newlyweds in their mid-20s. They brought a fun, energetic vibe to the group. It felt like hanging out with your little sister and her friends. They were cute, but there was a disconnect that happened whenever the 30 and 40-somethings spoke about things the 20s hadn't reached yet. The two that came to happy hour with the most consistency were Ursa and Mackenzie, best friends who seemed to enjoy the company of the slightly older women. The other 20s had broken off into their own group that Ursa and Mac still hung out with occasionally. Rainey felt bad calling them the baby tigers. Tara had only come up with that nickname because she was threatened by their youth. Braithe came back and pushed a glass of white wine into Rainey's hand. Her lips were lined in gold, as were her eyes. She surveyed the room. "Sit over there by Viola, will you? She's miserable because she can't drink." She said it loud enough for Viola to hear. Braithe winked at Viola, who in turn made a face at her. Rainey made her way over to where Viola was sitting and slid obediently into her seat. She would have chosen to sit next to Viola anyway. The clock on Braithe's range read 7:47. She'd stay until 9-ish and then say she had to get home to let Shep out. These were dog people. They would understand. That meant an hour and 15 minutes for happy hour, and she could call it. She grinned at Viola, who returned her look with raised eyebrows. Her pursed lips were a perfect matte burgundy. "Don't think I..."